Anyone can be rich. Being rich isn't about reaching a specific net worth that will indicate to the world at large that you've made it. Instead, you must define what rich means to you. Does rich mean being able to take the job you love and not the job you need? Does rich mean owning a mansion in Malibu or just a small cottage on the Jersey Shore? Does rich mean that your kids graduate college debt-free thanks to mom and dad? Whatever it is, set the goal that's right for you and work towards it. There is only one factor that is on your side when working toward your goal of becoming rich: time. The people that will fare the best will be those that start early. Over time, U.S. markets will see great fluctuations, but overall, the trajectory has trended toward growth. Whether or not there will be drops in the market is irrelevant over the long haul. Staying the course with passive investments is critical to future success. The people who have the most opportunities to grow their wealth are the youngest and, unfortunately, the people who are least likely to invest their money. A recent study found that only 26% of millennials had any stock-based or fund-based investments. Many millennials and other young people fail to invest, citing fear following the recent market crash. The most commonly cited reason, though, for millennials failing to invest was that they felt they lacked the knowledge to do so. However, expertise is overrated. Most investors do not need an expert. In fact, most would-be investors overcomplicate the process of investing and fail to jump in at all. With a simple plan, any individual can invest and even see better financial outcomes than they would with a financial advisor on retainer. Financial experts, in fact, have proven to be incapable of surpassing the market most of the time, and all will charge you to do so with your money. With a do-it-yourself solution, an amateur can beat these numbers without paying money to anyone. Set up your credit cards and improve your credit history. Having a strong credit score is vital to growing wealth because people with good credit save money on long-term purchases by enjoying lower interest charges. Your credit is made up of your credit report and credit score. Your credit report includes the fundamentals of your accounts and whether you've paid on time or not, while your credit score is a number that represents how risky you might be to potential lenders. To present yourself to lenders as a less risky investment, credit cards can be an important tool for enhancing your credit as long as you never pay late and don't build new debt with them. If you struggle with remembering when to pay, automate your payments to save you from this danger. Always keep your cards for a long time and request higher credit limits periodically if you are without debt. Credit cards can either be a very favorable tool in growing your credit or they can be your downfall. As of 2015, the average American household was carrying $15,762 in credit card debt, a number that rises steadily every year. Nationwide, that equates to $733 billion. What's more, that number does not include all of the other forms of debt that the American household carries. Mortgages, student loans, and car loans that total to another $115, $160 or $12.2 trillion nationwide. As of now, the average American household is already paying nearly 10% of its average income of $75,591 on interest every year, totaling $6,658. The problem with all of this debt is not simply the money owed, although this may be bad enough. Rather, it's the interest payments that Americans are obligated to dole out every month on their debt that can make any sum of money much larger over the years. This is a very real danger to holding credit card debt over time. If the Federal Reserve hikes interest rates, these people could see their debt become even more costly. Just a 1% interest rate hike could cost the average American household $160 annually. In short, the money you owe today will not be the money you owe tomorrow, even if you don't spend another dime on your credit cards. Open the right bank accounts to get higher interest. Negotiate accounts with no fees. Most bank accounts are a waste of your money. Their interest rates on your accounts are often too low to beat the rise of inflation, and many charge fees. Most online banks, as opposed to the typical big bank with thousands of locations nationwide, offer much higher interest rates than their larger competitors. Furthermore, you should never pay a fee to a bank. Banks are lending out your money, so you deserve to earn interest for letting them do so. Bank fees are usually negotiable. Banks spend a lot of money to acquire customers. To lose a customer over a $5 fee is usually unthinkable to them. Call, speak to a representative, and coolly make your case. Most times they'll waive your fees. As of April 2016, inflation in the United States was holding around 1%. Over the preceding year, it reached a low of -0.2% in April 2015 and a high of 1.4% in January 2016. As a result, any money that is sitting in a bank account earning less than 1% interest for now is not as productive as it could be. In times of higher inflation, an even better interest rate would naturally be preferable. However, banks are trending away from these high annual returns. As recently as a decade ago, consumers could find savings accounts offering between 4 and 6% annual returns. But today, few banks will give consumers more than a 1.5% interest rate. Why? Typically, the interest paid out to account holders derives from interest paid by the bank's borrowers. With home mortgages today hovering below 5% in some cases, banks are charging less for their lending. Therefore, they must pay less to the account holders, giving them the money to lend out if they wish to turn a profit. Investing is the most effective way of all to grow your wealth. If your employer offers a 401k program, you should take full advantage of it whether or not there is an employer contribution match. If there is a contribution match, you should never allocate less than that percentage to your 401k. If you don't match your employer's contribution, you are leaving free money on the table. Companies that offer a 401k with an employer contribution do so by matching the employee's contribution. The average match in 2014 was 6%. While the numbers varied by employer for how much the company would match, only 24% of employees with 401k plans said that their employer offered no match at all. However, not all plan participants are contributing all of the money required to receive that company match. About 20% of employees with access to such 401k and similar plans do not participate in them. Even if you have a 401k plan, you should open a Roth IRA as well. It's the best deal available for long-term investing, and it enables you to put your money toward any other goals you might have. Unlike a 401k, however, a Roth IRA requires you to pay taxes on your contributions up front. Suppose that Jane is fresh out of college and in debt for all of her student loans. She has an entry-level job making $50,000 that offers a 401k with an employer contribution matching up to 6%, but she does not consider investing to be among her top priorities. Jane decides to invest 1% of her income into her 401k and focus on paying off her debt and making her monthly rent, which is quite high as she lives in New York City. The first thing Jane should do is realize that she is leaving money on the table. At age 22, Jane can make even small investments that will potentially pay off more than larger investments she makes 10 to 15 years from now, given that these small investments will have so much time to grow. At the very least, she's giving up what essentially amounts to free money, the remaining 5% of her employer's contribution to her 401k. That equates to $2,500 per year, certainly worthy of her consideration. That money will likely be worth considerably more as her investments mature when Jane finally retires in about 30 to 35 years. Determine the areas where you spend the most and where you want to target your spending. From there, you'll be able to put your money toward the right goals for you. Everyone's financial goals will be different. Rather than simply slashing costs across the board, you should employ a conscious spending technique. Shell out on the things you love guiltlessly while cutting costs ruthlessly in the areas that you don't value as much. With the money saved on the items of lower personal value, you will be able to invest. As you build your conscious spending plan, allocate your money into 4 areas: fixed costs, savings, investments, and spending money purely for your enjoyment. Not everyone will be planning for the same financial goals at the same time. In fact, Jane, from the example above, may be planning for different financial goals depending on the phase of her life. At 25, she might be planning to buy a home, while at 55, she might be planning a comfortable retirement. Similarly, at different times, there will be different items for purchase that mean a lot to the same person. Jane may love music and spend large amounts of money attending concerts in her 20s. In her 30s, maybe travel is more important to her, and she saves up for substantial trips every year. These types of purchases are normal and healthy and should be a part of every person's financial plan. While big picture, emotional purchases such as plane tickets for travel may be easy to rationalize. Many people fail to realize how much money they are actually dishing out to their various subscription purchases, including recurring payments for gym memberships and cable services. Prospective investors should remember that now, more than ever, the customer is empowered to unbundle costly cable subscriptions without sacrificing content. With options such as Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and others, viewers can create their own bundle according to their own priorities without paying exorbitant monthly fees for hundreds of channels they do not watch, which naturally displeases the big cable providers. Opting out of a traditional cable subscription is one way to save money and prevent unconscious spending. Automate your finances so that your investment accounts are all consistently seated without you having to think about it, or, more importantly, without allowing you to forget about them or rethink them. When you automate your finances, your money can go to work for you without wasting time or effort on your part. While you sleep, you may be funding your era or paying your credit card bills. With a bit of time and effort at the outset, you can save yourself from forgetting, rethinking, or procrastinating on these important money management tasks on the back end. Just make sure to set your transfers to move on the right dates. For a helpful starting point, note when you typically receive your direct deposits from your employer. If you're on a variable pay schedule, adjust accordingly and build in a financial cushion so you never overdraft your accounts. Laziness can either cost you money or make you money. The key is using your inherent laziness to your benefit by finding and creating a simple and automated solution. Similarly, productivity experts hail the Pareto principle, a rule named after an early 20th century Italian economist who discovered that 20% of the country's population owned 80% of its land. Today, management experts have applied the so-called 80-20 rule to mean that 80% of your results should be driven by only 20% of your actions. To apply this principle to your time spent investing, only a small percent of your effort should lead to the overwhelming majority of your financial rewards gained over time in which you were automatically investing. Avoid mutual funds. Invest in index funds or life cycle funds instead. Mutual funds may beat the market fabulously for a year or two, but fund managers can hide true performance over time, and no matter what you're told, virtually no one can reliably beat the market every year. Furthermore, mutual fund operations are run by people, and highly paid people at that. For you, that means paying a fee to invest with a mutual fund that may not yield returns. Index funds, however, select their investments using computers instead of people. As a result, index funds have lower fees because there is no expensive staff. They also tend to run parallel to the market. When it's up, the fund is up. When it's down, so is the fund. To optimize your investment, you will need to pick a few index funds. For an even easier investment plan, you can choose a life cycle fund that will automatically shift your investments as you age, for example, shifting to a heavier bond ratio when you're closer to retirement. From 2001 to 2012, about 7% of mutual funds failed every year, a far worse set of outcomes than in the 1960s, when only 1% of funds would fail annually. Out of 6,500 funds, approximately 5,500 mutual funds were liquidated or merged into other funds. Fire sales should also be an ongoing concern for investors looking to see returns. In these cases, funds are forced to sell off their higher value assets when in need of cash. The overall impact of these funds on the market and its stability has the Federal Reserve closely monitoring to ensure that they aren't being sold off to the detriment of investors. Life cycle funds are growing in their popularity for their convenient, turnkey solution to investing. By one estimate, life cycle funds are expected to make up nearly half of the $7.7 trillion in asset contributions by 2020. These investments are particularly savvy, as between 2006 and 2012, at least one life cycle fund saw an average annual return of 4.6% compared with the market's 4.2% increase. Don't try to make major money management changes overnight. Attempting to make drastic financial changes very quickly may leave you feeling deprived or discouraged. Often, drastic changes have very little long-term impact. For example, if you are alarmed by your lack of retirement savings and shift suddenly from saving $50 each month to trying to save $1,000 per month, failure to meet your goal may cause you to give up entirely. Rather than make such a dramatic change, plan to slowly raise your monthly contribution to your investment account by $75 per month until you reach your goal. Over time, you will become accustomed to the gradual change. Set a goal and work towards it. The sooner you start, the less overwhelming it will be. If you only have a month to put away $10,000 for a wedding, you will be much worse for wear and likely to max out your credit cards than you would be if you had been planning for this expenditure for years.